Sure. You guys, this is Ray Brock. He's here to talk to you about the scholarship. You should have already been notified about this. We sent out an email a while back. We're recording it, not to record you guys, but we have a large class that's online, so we'll be just sharing whatever he's sharing with you with the rest of the online as far as the scholarship. So, Ray Brock, it's all yours.
All right. Well, let me say right up front, I don't claim to be a speaker. I'm an automotive technician. I'm an automotive machinist, but speaker I'm not. Anyway, my credentials are that I built a racing engine in the 11th grade when I was in high school. It really got me excited about engines and decided right away I'm going to be an automotive machinist. Graduated from high school. I quit my job in the grocery store and went to a new job and found a job in an automotive machine shop as an apprentice. And after a few years there and becoming a journeyman, 6 years in the machine shop, I decided to have another job. So I decided to go into the auto repair business instead. So I went to work in the shop, an independent shop, and a year or so later bought the business and operated that shop for 4 years. So after I was kind of convinced I was supposed to retire then. And so I did, sold the business. And about 2 or 3 weeks later, I said, oh, I miss working on engines. Really enjoyed every day that I worked in the shop. And so instead of going back into the repair business, I opened up a small machine shop building racing engines for Collins and others. And so I spent the next 15 years building racing engines and some large horsepower engines. And I had a great time. I enjoyed every minute of it. So anyway, that's my history. My message is, I enjoyed every day of it. And if this is what you're going to do, if you're not a car person and you can get a bang out of fixing things, you can't find a better thing to do. It's a great career. I found a lot of enjoyment and satisfaction in bringing in a car that didn't work properly and find the problem, make it work, and see it go away, and the customer's happy, I'm happy, and the shop you work for is happy if you're working for a show. I look back over some 70 plus years and never got tired of it. I wish I could still do it. It's just a little bit late. I'm 87 years old. Anyway, to get on beyond that, I just think that, if you're going to be in this business and you're going to like it, enjoy it, be the best you know how to be. Learn everything you can. Study, read, whatever it takes. That's why you're here. And you just never quit learning. The cars change constantly over the years, so you have to continue to keep learning. You keep coming out with new systems and whatnot. And so in light of that, we decided here a few years ago that I was involved a little bit with the Quinnipiac College Auto program. They had a scholarship program. So I investigated here at Southwestern, and they didn't have a program like that. So I said, well, you know what? At this end of my life, I've got a few extra bucks that I don't need. So let's put together a scholarship program here at Southwestern. And I don't know how much of it you know about, but I don't know how much detail I even know about. Anyway, the program exists. It's available to any of you who want to apply to it. There's certain, I don't know what, half a dozen or more scholarships will get issued every year. It's going to go on year after year after year long after I'm gone, because we're going to use the money that this scholarship earns as the scholarships that we give away. So it shouldn't run out of money. It should go on and on long after I'm gone. But anyway, has anybody any questions? I don't know what else to talk about other than it's a fun career.
Do you have any requirements that they have to meet, minimum requirements?
There are some qualifications. Yeah, we'll have an evaluation committee originally planned. We haven't done that yet because COVID's interrupted.
Yeah.
But originally our plan was to put together 3 or 4 people as an evaluation committee, and the participants would submit their resume, and we would evaluate that. And if we were going to give away 10 scholarships, we'd pick out 10 of however many we had to apply. Plan. And that's fairly accurate with what we still plan to do, I think.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know where we're at exactly right now with the
I
program.
can share a little bit about that if you like.
Sure.
So my name is Erica. I work with the College Foundation office here. So we've been lucky enough to work with Ray and help him set up this great scholarship opportunities. There's currently 2. The first is for a bookstore scholarship. So it's $500. Get it on anything you need at the bookstore. And we're offering 5 of those each semester. And the second one is specifically for students who are completing their automotive program. So in the final semester, final classes for that. And that's for a toolkit. You get to kind of pick and choose and create the toolkit you want. And I think it's $1,250 is the amount you have to work with. So it's a great opportunity to kickstart getting your own stuff for your own career. And we do 6 of those each semester. So that's kind of where we're at right now. And like Ray said, it is set up as an endowment, so it will go on as long as the college is around.
In the beginning, we thought, well, we'll put together a toolkit with X number of sockets and X number of wrenches. And then we got to thinking about it. So, a lot of these folks are going to have a certain already. So why would we want to give them a kit that may duplicate 2 or 3 things they've already got? It's better yet to give them a credit at the tool store or the Snap-on truck, wherever it happens to be, and let them pick out the tools they need, rather than duplicate a bunch of stuff they've already got. Tools are quite expensive, if you will discover in a hurry. And so even $1,250 is not going to buy you a complete tool set by any means.
And I know, and I think Brian mentioned this, but I think he sent out a link. So the scholarships are currently open to the end of the month. So you have until the 30th to apply. There's an essay portion of the scholarship where we get to learn a little bit about you and your aspirations in the automotive industry, and so Ray can learn about that as well. But it's not a super complex application. We really encourage you guys to apply. So it's a great way to support all of your efforts and to get things you need to be successful.
I think in a lot of cases, it's not so much what you know, but how dedicated you are to this business. If you really want to get into this business, you really want to do the job, then you want to learn everything you can. You want to be the best you can possibly be. And each one of you wants to be you're going to be a mechanic in Chula Vista. You want to be the best one in Chula Vista. You want your customers to be coming after you, asking for you to work on their car, not somebody else. And that can happen. It's happened to me. I've had cars in my shop that other shops couldn't fix. I've had cars in my shop that dealers couldn't fix. I always surrounded myself with the best guys I could find, and they would come up with answers to these problems, and lots of times others had failed. And you can do the same thing. Just work at it hard enough. You can be the best.
Yeah, and I sent out the email, I think, earlier today to all the instructors, so they'll be giving you that probably be a canvas, I imagine. Maybe open it up. Didn't look very complex. Pretty straightforward. But all that information is sent out there, and should be showing up in your canvas. I think there's a video there too. That's there as well. So I think it's a good opportunity, especially as Ray mentioned. Tools are expensive, very expensive. $1,200. You look for the right huge burner right there.
It's fine though if you strive to be the best. Some of the folks I won't say in competition with, but some of the guys that are working at other shops are going to be less than the best. And so you want to be the guy the shop wants to hire because you know what you're doing and you're dedicated to doing the job, doing it right, doing it fast.
Any other questions? Anybody need some
70
money?
years of experience right here. If you guys want to hear about any.
Yeah, I got lots and lots of years behind me. If you got any questions, I whistle. I might have an answer. I don't know.
Are we connected with Dennis Strong or with Adam Austin with that program?
Dennis Strong. Yeah, it's Dennis Strong.
You want to do that program? It's like
Because first time you go to fill out the application, you get selected.
So I know Adam will be willing to come in and give a presentation.
Sure. Set it up. Set it up.
So the 2 groups for the scholarships are new students and completers.
Finishing students. Yeah.
Completing students. How many people are new to Southwestern College Automotive? So we got a couple people that you should be applying for those scholarships. How many people are last semester students?
Yeah.
You should be applying. It's like, there's your two groups right there.
Yeah.
No reason not to apply. Have this money just sitting there and he's offering it and you're not applying for it.
There to educate as many people as we can.
Yeah.
Make it a little easier to become efficient.
And for those of you in between, like I said, we offer them every semester. So next semester, maybe your last, the toolkits are going to be there again. So this is like we've been saying, it's going to go on and on. So as long as you're here, there's going to be chances.
When I was a student here, we didn't have that program. So
Yeah.
Glad you have it. Thank you.
When I started out, they certainly didn't have any programs like that. 1950, 51, when you just learned the hard way. You tried this, and whatever you had to do, and if that didn't fix it, you did it again. We didn't have any kind of education whatsoever. You learned as you went. Cars are a little more complicated today than they were 70 years ago. It's pretty much impossible to learn that way now. I don't think you can just hire into a shop without any education, without any experience, and expect to make a living at it. It's just, it is too complicated for that. But they're not impossible to fix. They just have some knowledge.
All right, Brad. You're not any questions?
Is there gas leak in here or something?
Nobody drinks coffee?
Yeah, they got masks on.
All right, Ray, what was the first bit that you built?
Well, I was told by the people that supposedly knew that it wouldn't work. But I was kind of a Chevrolet person. So I bought a 41 Chevrolet block from Wrecking Yard for $10. And with the intention of building a car, an engine out of this. So I discovered in the tool room, I was one of the few in auto shop that really wanted to learn something. Some of the guys were there just because it was an easy class. I was in the tool room one day and I spotted a box that said Van Norman boring block. And I said, I need to bore this block. So Art Hill was my teacher. I said to him, I need to use that boring bar to bore this. He said, they sent me that years ago. I haven't even opened the box. I don't even know if it's all there. And I haven't used it for many, many years. No. So I kept bugging him and bugging him and bugging him. Finally, after about a month, he let me look in the box and see if it was all there. And it was. It was there. There was a tool with it, with the mic and all the tool bits and whatnot. And so, and an instruction book. So he said, you might ruin the engines. If I ruin the engines, $10 engine. I'll buy another block for $10 if I have to. And so anyway, he finally let me. So I bored the thing. And one night I bored it out an 18 inch. And so I paid $125,000. So one sold it went to water. And I had a friend, a guy that was kind of a mentor to me in the machine shop. And he said, I'll get you a sleeve. You sleeve it. That's all. Wore the thing out to the proper size and sleeve it. Okay. And so I did that. Well, anyway, eventually put the engine together during the 11th grade and the first half of the 12th grade and got it in the car. And well, in the car was another problem. I bought a 32 Ford without an engine. It had a transmission, had a rear end, and all the running gear except the engine. Well, of course, this Chevy 6 is not going to hold up to the Ford transmission. And in those days, you couldn't buy these adapters. If you were going to do something like that, you had to make the thing. And so I figured it all out. And I set it up on a dirt floor garage, and standing on the dirt floor garage, and crowded the two together until I figured out how much space I had to fill. And I ended up buying a old Ford 6 bell housing and bolting that to the transmission, and then making an adapter plate to attach that to the engine. And put it all together, put the clutch and flywheel, whatever. And it was a Chevy flywheel with a Ford pressure plate bolted to it. And all homemade stuff. You couldn't buy hardly anything in 1950. And anyway, I run it to drags on alcohol, nitro, 103 at Paradise Mesa, 122 at Santa Ana. And I'm still like 18 years old. And that's why we didn't finish. But we didn't know any better. We did things we didn't know how to do, or that we didn't know you couldn't do.
We told us you couldn't do it, so why not?
So yeah, and it worked. They told me at the beginning, this thing it doesn't have full pressure oil into the rods. There's splash oil, and they're poured rods. Never going to work. I said, doesn't matter how the oil gets there. Once it gets there, I said, dumb, stupid me. I'm just going to go for it, and I did. And we ran it. I ran it 2 years in that car. I took it out, put it in a different car. Ran it another 2 years, and then sold it. So you just engage brain, and you can do all kinds of things that you're not supposed to be able to do. And then after that, well, then I started getting serious. Since then, classes, V6 Fords at 2.6, 1.6 push rod motors. They ran at mini stocks. The Pinto engines, they ran at mini stocks, 2 liter, 2.3. Then we ran 4.5 NASCAR engines, these cars, for a couple of years. Then we went on up to the aluminum Boss V8, 408 cubic inch, 750 horsepower. And of course, all kinds of 350 Chevys and 350 Fords, 351 Fords, Stroker 302s, 347s, 351. It's a 392. We did, through the years, just I've got a McLaren engine in my pictures that I built. I built the Rolls engine once. Over the years, it's just a challenge, constantly building something new and something different, and making more fun. I never was able to go fast. I started at 4. I didn't have a pedal cart, but the 2 doors down the street, I was shooting care about that. And so I wore it out for it. In my life, in automobiles. It's been fun too.
I'm sure I can listen to you for hours, though.
I've had a blast in this business. Almost every day, we were challenged at the shop. This job people that tried to fix gave up, and I had a couple of guys for me that just it was going to get if he was fixed, he was fix it if it took the rest of his life. Beto Rodriguez owns the shop now. He went to work for me in 1979. He's probably the best mechanic I ever met. And he's the kind of guy that like a dog with a bone. If you give him a job to fix, it's going to get fixed.
First time we say that about me. Anybody in the peanut gallery have questions? You guys are all going to apply for this, right?
I have a question. You say you enjoyed almost every day
Almost.
working it. You want to talk about the days you didn't enjoy?
Well, for instance, yeah, we had a customer, a young girl, 18, 19-year-old girl, was running a Jeep. The Jeep had a knock, which I can listen to. That's a piston noise. So it's been overheated, yeah. So it's how many miles you got? Oh, we got 140,000 miles. Well, I don't think I want to take it apart and put a piston in it. I think at that mileage, we'll talk about a rebuild. So she says, okay, let's do it. So we pulled, she goes away. We pull the engine out, go through it. And of course, it does have a bad piston. We end up reboard, change the pistons, end up rebuild the engine, put it back in the car, and fire it up, runs good. It did have one little characteristic. It fired up cold, it died 2 or 3 times. But we said, well, it's new, it's tight, so she came in and wrote the check, took the car away. And she came back in a few days and she says, this thing every morning when I go to start it dies 3 or 4 or 5 times. I just have a heck of a time getting this thing to keep running when it's cold. I said, I'll leave it here and see what we can do. So we messed with the choke, and we think we might have here or theirs. So I finally put a few miles on it and it'll probably get better. Well, she didn't tell me the whole story. I still don't know the story. So anyway, she brings it back 2 or 3 times. Well, finally, her dad comes along. And so I said, no, we're not done here. Well, he in fact reported me to the Bureau of Labor because he was upset and I'm unhappy with our job. And so they called me up and I said, well, this is where we're at. This is what the problem. This is what we're doing, and we're not done. We're going to find the problem. We just haven't found it yet. And they said, okay, let us know. So she left the car, and so we started to we changed it. We finally found the problem. It was an EGR valve that had been assembled in the factory with 3 rivets. And when there's a gasket between the 2 pieces, when they assembled it, the gasket slipped out of place. And they riveted it together with the gasket out of place. So it's a vacuum leak, and it's right below the carburetor. So when we squirted B12 on the carburetor and it picked it up, we thought it was the carburetor for the throttle shaft, when actually it was the EGR valve right below it. Well, anyway, we found that, we changed the EGR valve, put it on the car, redid the joke, and now everybody's happy. So then she tells me the rest of the story. She said, you know, when I bought that car brand new, she said it did that same thing. It died every time you tried to start it forward. And so she said, I went back to the dealer 3 or 4 times, and they kept saying, I do this or do that, and it never did. And so she said, well, she said, when you said you're going to rebuild the engine, that's going to fix everything. Well, of course, she didn't realize that you're not over rebuilding the generator or the alternator, the starter, or the carburetor. You know, you remove a certain amount of these accessories, and then you put them back on. And we didn't know that she'd had this problem since new, or we might have been able to check it out sooner. Anyway, we eventually found the problem, and she was happy. Bureau of repair with that. But it was not a fun job. We suffered for a little while, for a week or 2, trying to figure out what the heck was wrong with this car. But we found the problem. That's what counts. And everybody went away happy. And it didn't bother. It was enough trouble for her bringing it back 3 or 4 times that when we found the problem, we just put the new valve on and said, have a good. So every day is not fun, but most of them are.
I tell my students, the best thing about the automotive industry are the people. The worst thing about the automotive industry are the people. 50% of the population, no matter what you do, you're good for free, is going to complain.
Yeah, there's going to be one now and then that you have a problem with, but for the most part, it was a fun trip. I had it ever since I was this high, and I bought my first paper route. Age 14, 34 Chevy, you know, and on and on. I had the repair shop for 40 years. During that period of time, the tow truck part of the time, I got a used car license. We bought and sold over 1,000 cars in 3 or 4 years. I hired a couple guys to do the car thing. We had cars leased out for a while, and I finally said, "Oh, I don't want money that bad." And what I really like to do is fix cars. And so I dropped the used car license, leased cars, and we just got down to fixing cars. You know, there's all kinds of facets to the business. Most of them, the fun one was.
Anybody else? Sean.
What's like the most difficult job you have to do? Like you got frustrated or
Was that?
What's the most frustrating thing or job you had in the automotive industry?
Well, that Jeep was right up high on the list. No, we've had others. The Packard years and years ago. We're talking back in the 50s. Ultramatic transmission, never heard of, and it leaked. So I bring the car in, up on the jack, hands full of, and reseal the front part of the transmission. Put it all back together. Customer takes it away. We brought it back. It's still leaking. Here, so I take a look. Sure enough, I pull it out and do all the same thing I already did, plus a little bit more. Put it all back together. And this time I didn't give it to the customer. This time I fired it up, let it run for half an hour, 45 minutes. Still leaking. So about the 3rd time I had the transmission out of this thing, an Ultramatic Packard is not the most full. About the 3rd time I had it out, I started really searching to see what was going on. And it turned out the hub and the torque converter in the front of the hub had a crack. And so we raised up the crack because you can't buy a torque converter for a Packard. And so we raised it, ground over together and fixed the leak. But it's frustrating once every now and then somebody throws you a curve. That's not supposed to happen. That's not crack. You're supposed to have a leak to replace seals and gaskets. But now and then somebody throws you a curve. And then others, every now and then you win one too. Early on in the 50s, too, they had a Borg-Warner transmission, three-band, really unusual kind of early transmission. And the big failure was reverse. And that was a common failure on a lot of cars, but on the old three-band Borg-Warner, it was one problem. Every time the reverse failed, it was this reverse drag, one-way clutch. And it would flip, and then it wouldn't work in reverse. And so it paid like 7 or 8 hours to pull the transmission and replace the sprag. Well, I discovered you could pull the back end off the transmission and replace the sprag on the end of the training out of the car. And I could do it in 2 hours. And so every now and then you win one. You get paid for a very complicated job, not a shortcut. And of course, there's a lot of shortcuts. Over the years, you figure out which ones don't. There are some that don't. We used to once in a while take a cylinder head off, not pull them out, intake mount, and sneak it back on again. Very tough job. So I had a guy in a panic to get this valve replaced or ground or whatever, in a Saturday afternoon, and he had to have it just solid. And so I snatched the head off of his Pontiac, and it just right. I fought that thing for the rest of the day, and that did not work on a Pontiac. It worked on an FE Ford, but it don't work on a Pontiac. So once in a while you try one and you lose. That's true. And, so you learn which ones work and which ones don't. In those days, we learned to work with everything that came in the door. We worked on carburetors, generators, starters, water pump, engines, transmissions, rear ends, brakes, steering, whatever. Whatever came in the door that needed to be repaired, we repaired it. Nowadays, you R&R a lot of stuff. You replace components and repairing them. And so I think you really lost a lot of the satisfaction we used to get from water pump apart and putting it back together, or taking the alternator apart and putting it back together, and other various components that we use. They don't do as much of that now as used.
Change the gears, rear X, gears in the Jeep. You want to do that?
Nope, not anymore. I've done it though, done 100 of it, but I'm not going to do it anymore. My cardiologist won't let me.
I don't tell them.
I did tell him until I had a cardiac arrest, and then he started telling me what I wasn't going to do. Anyway, those things are all possible. Anyone, any of you guys can learn to do this. You can learn to change ring and pinion. You can learn to do transmission, whatever it is, automatic or standard. That stuff is not wrong. Average intelligence learn to do these things. And so never let it defeat. Be the best. Work hard at it. Shops will be trying to find you. Customers will chase you. You change one shop to another. Customers will follow you.
Right now, the diet technicians, I'm talking to a place where I used to work today, and they're diet technicians, nobody wants to work.
That's right. Well, of course, right now, with this, the way the government's been handing out money, nobody wants to work.
My wife's looking for a job.
But I enjoyed my work. I would have never wanted somebody to spend money that I worked on. I enjoyed it. I don't know what kind of satisfaction you guys can get from staying home and watching television. I read a lot.
People have exercise.
Well, there's a limit. Anybody else? We have a girl mechanic. Every now and then I see a girl mechanic. They're doing well too. I was out at Grammatica College and they had several girls in their college program. It's not the dirty, greasy job that it used to be either. I can remember times when we were walking around and on the floor there was slosh, slosh, slosh. Our ATF, that was a quarter inch deep in the floor. It's not that way anymore. Nobody's shop is